Hello, welcome to another Tuesday night live stream. Hopefully, you guys are doing good. I'm sorry for the slight delay. Got home late, just got done eating dinner, had to get set up. So, hopefully, you guys are all good and ready to go for our live stream. I see there's 9 concurrent viewers currently, and I have 8 likes already. So, we are doing really good. Great start. So, let's see here who's here so far. We have first was Tony. That's impressive, considering that Grish is usually first. But Grish is not far away. Grish is number 2. Micah is here. Nils was here. He's going to watch later. So, hi, Nils. Toro is here. Welcome in. Joe is here. I am not going to play the Josephus sounder because I too agree that it is getting a lot of airtime these days. Grish says evening. 1080p 60. Looking good. Not flat lighting. Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's too dramatic. It's not bad, but it's, to me, it's like, this is not a natural shadow. So, I mean, one of those things, like, I know so not to take a tangent right off the bat, but, you know, I am used to a more flat, consistent lighting. I do not like dramatic lighting the YouTube with only have one light, which I only have one light, but I did buy more lights. I just never, I need to buy a mount, like some sort of a mount, so that I have light over here, because I still believe in 3-point lighting, and I cannot stand dramatic lighting where it's half your face is dark because it looks cool or something like that. I just don't get that. It's not natural. If you and I are having a conversation in a room, you don't look like that. You don't have shadows on your face. So I don't know. I like 3-point. I like 3-point lighting. I think it's how it's supposed to be well lit. You know, you can have some shadows, but because you're naturally going to have some shadows. But when you're like half your face is dark, as I've seen on YouTube, it's just not natural and it looks bad, in my opinion. So, just, you know. So I know Joe and I will probably always disagree on that one. Make that 9 likes. Awesome. And Eric's here. Welcome in, Eric. And yes, if you have not liked and subscribed, please do. You have to be a subscriber to leave a comment. Most of you are subscribers already, so that's awesome. No, it's not a scratch. That's just a spot on my face. It happens, especially when you're stressed out because, what is it? You more of a certain chemical that makes you break out. I don't know what it's called, but yeah. So I mean, to say that I'm not stressed would be a understatement. Brian, welcome in. We have been 1080p for a while now. I don't remember how long it's been. It's been several live streams at least. I forget when I went at 1080p. It's been a while. Stream from the news desk. Well, I mean, just sorry guys, gotta get out of here like that. Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting concept. I couldn't do it very easily without having to get in the way of something. We are always using the desk, it seems like, so it'd have to be like on a weekend, because literally the desk is being used, I would say 12 out of, probably 16 hours of the day, the desk is in use. So yeah, I mean, Brian says this is more important than the news. Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I could do green wall. I am horribly bad at green wall. I've tried it before. It's awkward. It's not as easy as you think it is. It's like you think it'd be easy to just do this and point to a certain place on a wall. It's really not. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where that'd be kind of cool. I mean, and that I could actually do pretty easily because we built a whole. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to touch the microphone. We built a whole green wall studio in preparation for having a digital only studio, and that is currently not in use. So I in theory could stay late one night and utilize a green wall. That is actually interesting. That is interesting. I'm not anytime soon, but I could toy around with that. That'd be interesting. So it wouldn't be the true weather set, but it'd be a green wall nonetheless. You're welcome. Joe says, YouTube aside, when we do corporate shoots, we get close to flat. True 3-point lighting. Can't have, yeah, you can't. Yeah, I mean, you don't want dramatic lighting when you're doing certain things. I didn't notice. I think Joe would unsubscribe and would block me if I went back to 720p. I think well, I don't have a 1 gig. I have a 500 meg connection. It was after that, but yes, that was obviously one of the things that I needed to get upgraded before I could go 10 gig because, or sorry, 10 gig, 1080p. Because my old upload speed was only like 10-ish consistently. I mean, sometimes it'd be more than that, but it was never really good. I mean, no, to each their own. I'm just, yeah, I just tend not to like that kind of dramatic lighting. NBD. I don't know what NBD stands for. Second week vacation. That'd be nice. I We actually just canceled the vacation because of work related things. So need to find a time to take a vacation. I just helped my buddies at a next star station. Very funny what I just did an hour ago for them. Speaking of news, you help them do lighting, or would you do a project for them? It would be cool. I would have to be very careful about what I showed. It would be kind of difficult to stream in certain areas, at least. um, but like I said, I could if I have a digital studio, nothing there to I could show everything there because there's nothing there. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. I think that was the word I was looking for. Do we need a shader? Yes, we do. So I was actually doing that last Friday. I was running video for sports, which is why I took all these videos I'm about to show you guys. And then I was running video. We had 4 cameras, and we had a clock cam, and that's your pretty typical setup for a football game. And I didn't actually take any pictures of the cameras, which is now that I think about. I didn't do that. That's kind of interesting. But I focused on the truck a lot. So the videos, I have several videos showed up for you, not pictures, actual videos. I got there early, and I took videos before anybody else really kind of got into the truck. So I was able to turn the lights on and actually have like all the lights on. Oh, no big deal. Okay, I could not think of what what that was. The police department gave us a FOIA request on a DVD, and wow, I'm shocked by that because our local police department gives us video files in OneDrive. I think it's how we do it now. Um, I don't. Yeah, I haven't seen a DVD I haven't seen a DVD in the newsroom in years. Um, This does not surprise me. This does not surprise me at all. I just told someone today actually about a story a couple years ago where we had to get rid of all the analog clocks in the newsroom because certain people couldn't read the analog clocks. So we had to take down working clocks and replace them with digital clocks because certain people couldn't read the analog clocks. I don't think that person even works there anymore, but yes, I would hold on to your Blu-ray drives. That's for sure. I don't disagree with you. I don't know. um, okay, well, at least he knew of it. I will say it depends on how the DVD was made, because sometimes they're authored DVDs, and that's slightly different than if they're just files on DVD. And then depending upon how or what they're being delivered, it could be encoded in a weird way. So I will often get requests. Basically, I have this video file. It doesn't play well in our video editors. What can you do? And usually, if it plays in VLC, then I find some way to convert it. And I will often use like FFmpeg or some kind of tool to convert it to a format that the editors can actually use. So I've seen that issue before, where at least like the files come in a weird format and therefore people don't know how to use them, but everybody seems to at least know what a DVD is. So top of the hour makes more sense than a clock. That's true. Kind of does. I told him to hold the DVD. Yeah, I don't think that works. I don't think that works that way. Oh, it was a file DVD? Yeah. Well, that in theory should be easier, but yeah. Well, that is true. I haven't had to do that a lot recently because we actually deployed Handbrake to people's computers for a different project or different reason. So I haven't had to convert video in quite some time, actually, now that I think about it, because they all have Handbrake and most of them figured out how to use it to convert video. So that's, yeah, your good point is deploy Handbrake and you won't need to worry about it. Converting videos, at least. So, alrighty. Well, looks like there's still... Oops, I closed the page. I didn't mean to do that. I was going to go back to my stats page to see how well we were doing, because I haven't actually given you guys an update on my channel in quite some time. Not that it's doing gangbusters or anything like that at all, because it's not. But there are 14 likes and 7 concurrent viewers, so we're doing good on that. So let's go back to my channel. And we currently sit at, oops, close that. 2,052 subscribers. We're up 22 in the last 28 days. So, I mean, we're still getting subscribers. We're definitely not growing, or I'm not growing, I should say. The funny thing is, if I look at watch hours, it's at 1,751, and it's been around that for a while. So even though I have taken a couple breaks here and there, I haven't posted a VOD video in a long time, the public watch hours are holding steady at about 1,700 and something. So that's kind of cool. I like that it's consistent, at least. It's not just completely dropping off. I kind of expected it to drop off, but it's not. So that's, to me, that's pretty cool. Um, I'll take it. I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point I will never be monetized, but that's okay. That's not what this channel's about. I do wish I had members only. That would be really cool to have a members tier, so I could do members only video or live streams, because I would probably show a whole lot more in a members only live stream, or at least I could post a video for a while, then take it down. I don't know. It'd be something like that. But I do wish I could get to members only tier. That's kind of my goal at this point, is just to get to that tier. So anyway, let's go back to the chat. Hey Terrell, we actually have VLC on almost every computer. Actually, we have VLC on every computer. It is a requirement for one of our pieces of software that VLC be installed. The 32-bit version, not the 64-bit. You have to install the 32-bit version. But anyway, yes, we do have VLC. So that is a point. That's a good point. We do have VLC installed, so most people can just go use that, and then they might just do a screen capture at that point. Maybe that's why I haven't got a lot of phone calls about help me encode the video, because if VLC can play it, they can just do a screen capture and then put it in the editor that way too. So yeah, I have noticed that VLC has had problems playing certain things recently. What was it? It wouldn't play a live stream that I knew worked at one point. That was kind of weird. And then, and I know it worked because OBS would play it, but VLC wouldn't. And so I think it had to do with passwords. It was an encrypted, or it was a lockdown stream. So I think it might have been a password issue. But, we are at the members only bar, the subscriber count. It's watch hours. You need 3,000 watch hours to be members, to have members tier. So we are short on the watch hours. We're fine on subscribers. We're fine on in longevity, because I think you got to be a channel for so long before you can do that. So I've met I think every requirement except for the watch hour requirement. All right, so I was curious, because this stream was actually originally going to be talking about SDRs, and so I still have the SDR dongle here. If anybody is actually wanting me to do a demo on this, I could do a demo first, or I can do it second. It's kind of up to you guys. I wasn't sure. I kind of wanted to do the live streaming part because people were asking questions in Discord. And so I thought about just doing a live stream about sports to answer some of those questions and show some video. But I know originally I had set up this last week as a good demo. The problem I have with the SDR, or at least this one in particular, is it only shows like 3 megahertz. So the demo I wanted to do does not work because I can't really show a channel, like a TV channel, because a TV channel is 6 megahertz, and so you'd have to be wider than 6 megahertz to show it. This one can't do that. So the demo I want to do for SDR will have to wait. But I could at least give a little demo of what I was starting to play around with for those who are curious. It was a UDP stream. It was a security camera. It was a security camera stream. Am I out of focus? I know that's an odd question to ask. 23 minutes into the stream, but I just realized I think I'm slightly out of focus. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, I guess let's get to the topic of the stream first, and then if we have time at the end, I'll do a demo. Okay, maybe just my monitor that's right below, right kind of off side of the camera, just looks a little funky at times. Painfully clear, as Joe says. I am painfully clear. That sounds like a dig and a compliment at the same time. All right, so I guess the first thing is I'm going to, and I queued up a video, is going to show you, I guess let's just a little background. For those who don't know, I do freelance sports, usually at the high school level. I've done some professional stuff, but that hasn't really happened in years. Because kind of like once you get off the list, it's kind of hard to get back on the list. So, and it was during kind of COVID where they needed help. Now they don't need as much help, I guess, because they got more regulars. People aren't, being sick and stuff like that. So, and so I do freelance sports. I do audio and video. Audio is pretty self-explanatory. Video is basically setting up the booth, where the announcers are, and then shading cameras during the show, which means adjusting the iris, making sure the colors are correct, and checking the back focus and stuff like that. So, but I wanted to kind of show what a truck looks like. I know a lot of people have seen probably the big trucks. People have seen maybe their local satellite truck or whatever it is. This truck in particular is kind of a nice hybrid. It's not a full-size truck. I think it's 37 feet, 47? No, not 47. I think it's only like 37 feet, 38 feet in length. So it's not like it's a big truck, which means that it actually can get into a high school stadium, which is really cool because most trucks you can't get into the stadium. So this truck was built to do soccer back in the day, and then with an eye on baseball. They don't do soccer or baseball these days. They only really do football and basketball. But it's small size, still, even though I should say, despite its small size, it's fully packed. I mean, it's got everything you need to do a high quality multi-camera production, and we're going to take a little look at that. And yeah, so let's just take a look at the first video, and this is going to be, and I hope there's not audio. Let me double check to make sure the audio channel is turned off. Yes, it is. So this is kind of a panorama of when you first walk in the door. And so you'll see there's basically an aisleway, and this thing, aisleway on the right, should probably start. So this is when you first walk in the door. So this is where graphics sits, and then in the back you'll see that's where replay is. And this whole section that we're standing in is actually expando. So this part actually slides out of the truck. So there's nothing above or below this portion we are standing in right now. And then, so as you see, it pans over to what this is be the back bench right here. And then it pans over to the front bench. And so in that front area where all the monitors are that are currently green, they're green because there's no sources right now. That's where the producer sits. If there was a separate director, they would sit there. But in this case, the director is also acting as the TD. So the TD sits at the switcher. That's a technical director, and they also call the shots. So it's a director / TD. So they sit there. The producer sits where that desk is. The producer is responsible for obviously helping to like coordinate what we're going to talk about, what the format of the show is, how many commercial breaks we have, when we go to break, that sort of thing. So that's called the front bench. And then there's the back bench, which is typically graphics or a replay in this case. And then as we pan more to the left, you can see we have the rack where all the equipment are, and then you can kind of see it. I don't think I go too far over. Yeah, you can't see it because there's a wall, but you can see the camera control units in the bottom left-hand corner. That is where I was running video the other day and shading the cameras. This truck, I think, is built for 8, but typically only has up to 7, if I'm not mistaken. We only used 4, but you know, it's built for more. Like I said, it was built to do soccer and baseball, so it was built to support multiple cameras. And I closed the chat window, so I should probably go back to the chat window. Micah says, coming from a 25 truck, that's big. Yeah, I mean, the trucks that I'm thinking of are 53 feet long trailers pulled by a semi. This is not that. When one of the videos I have queued up is an outside walk around, so you'll see exactly what this truck looks like. It is not a separate cab. The cab is attached to the truck, so you kind of see what it looks like. And I mean, honestly, for me, this is like the perfect size truck, because most productions don't need the size of a 53-foot trailer. And the fact that this truck was designed to fit into small spaces means that it can go into a high school stadium, means that it could go to a small college, or it can go do a parade on a city street and not take up a whole lot of space. So to me, it's the perfect size truck that balances like drivability, parking, all that stuff, and yet packs a whole lot of stuff inside. Because as you can see, you know, there's 4 racks of gear, and it's full, and it's got everything you need in those 4 racks. This is, from as far as I'm concerned, this truck is not missing out on anything. So here's the same basic shot, only going the other way. Again, these are all the lights on. I mean, when I walked in and the lights were on, I wanted to make sure that I took the video with the lights on. Usually these work lights are not on, so it's more accent lighting for the individual positions. This is just full brightness. As you can see, my camera was kind of like flipping out about that because it was pretty bright in here. David from PE for Doers is here. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, no comment on that one. You want to convince some of the RV manufacturers? Yeah. That'd be cool. If you haven't looked up, Micah, you should look up Girling and Associates. They're a company outside of Columbus, Ohio, who build production trucks. And I got a quote from them for a truck a couple years ago. It wasn't as crazy as you think it would be. With no equipment, it's not mind-blowingly expensive. Like it's actually fairly decent. I say that given budgets. I know that everyone's budgets are different. Some people's expensive is cheap and vice versa, you know, whatever. So, but it was really surprising how cheap you could get a truck. I was not prepared for the number that I saw, considering I'm like, well, geez, I think like a new Tesla costs more money. Like, you know, it was one of those things like, oh, okay, I'm very surprised, because I actually put together, and maybe this is something we could do on a different stream if you guys are interested, but I literally went through and priced out what it would cost to build a full truck. Not a truck like this, a much smaller truck, but it was nonetheless a truck. And I had cameras and DAs and audio boards and switchers and all this stuff. I priced it all out, got real quotes. Everything was real data. And it turns out the most expensive part of the whole entire truck build was the cameras. By far was the most expensive part. because lenses cost a lot of money, and cameras that are controlled remotely cost a lot of money. So yeah. Yes, the rack does have good access. The only issue that I have with this truck, if you will, is, as you can see here, when it gets close to the end, I'll stop it again. Is there's basically a pinch point right here where you have to walk past the person doing video to get to the rack, and then you have to pivot and go right. So like, if the TD, the director, or the producer spots want to come out, you basically have to walk around the video person. If the engineer wants to get in and adjust something, there's room, but they can't do a whole lot. Like, they can't touch half of the racks because you're sitting there. So it'd be kind of awkward. So I mean, not a bad design, but yeah, definitely maybe not ideal, but I mean, it does work. And hold on a second. So yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously in a truck this size, every inch matters a lot. So they, had to build this in a way that they could squeeze all this equipment in, and yet still make it functional in the 37-foot or whatever it is design. Yeah, no, there's not a lot of room for rack growth. But honestly, these days, a lot of this stuff could probably be shrunk down. For example, in the second from the right row where the patch field is, there are two routers down there. There's a video router and an audio router. These days, that would be one box. Typically, you wouldn't need separate routers. Likewise, in the first rack on the right, the very bottom, that's the switcher tub. That's behind, or sorry, not the switcher tub, the switcher frame that's behind the trash cans. That's the switcher frame. That's a pretty big switcher. Like, this switcher is kind of overkill for what they're using it for, but it's what you're going to see in a bigger truck. So it's the same model, or same at least family, that you would see in a bigger truck. So TDs who are used to switching on big trucks would be comfortable in this truck. That isn't very common, that you would have such a big switcher in a small truck. Usually you would have like a Ross, and you would have a smaller switcher. So that frame that the switcher uses is kind of big. Likewise, you can see a bunch of patching, and then you move over and there's a bunch of frames for different kind of cards and whatnot. Those frames are about the same size you would today, but you could see above the thing that says XT Nano, which is, by the way, that's the EVS replay unit that everybody uses in the big trucks. Not the same version, but it's the same company. So EVS is the manufacturer of high-end replay systems that literally everybody uses. So this truck has a small version, but my point being, above that XT Nano, you have a bunch of frame sinks. You could get that in card form these days, so you wouldn't have to take up physical rack space like that. You could put a frame in and make them all cards, or if you really wanted to, the switcher could have frame sinks on the input. And if you don't know what a frame sync is basically something that takes the video in, adjust it so that it is in the same sync or reference as the rest of the truck. So like, one thing about, like, low-end productions versus high-end productions, low-end productions like a Blackmagic or whatever, they adjust the frame rate of the video in for each input, but that adds delay. And so you have to allow for that in terms of video flowing in, video flowing out, and that doesn't scale well. So it might work for a 4-input switcher or an 8-input switcher. When you get to the level of 64 inputs, you're not going to have 64 frame syncs on the inputs. You're going to have just inputs. And so you have to frame sync external sources so they match your internal sources, because everything has to have the same reference. Because you're not adjusting the frame sync, you're not adjusting each input separately. It just adds delay, it adds complexity to the switcher, it adds more cost. So therefore, you remove the requirement to adjust everything by having everything be referenced, and then therefore everything can just talk at the same speed in the same time, and then there's no need to have extra stuff in the way, causing more delay and causing issues. So, but anything you bring from outside the truck, for example, a clock camera that is just simply a handheld camcorder, and yes, like the little ones you did like this back in the day, that's what they use for a clock camera. That is not referenced. So they have to bring it in and then reference it so that it can go through the system. That's what a frame sync does. If you plug a laptop in, it has to be frame synced so that it can be the same reference point as the rest of the truck. So that's what all those frame syncs are for that you see in this photo. Or video, I mean. All right, so let's go back to some questions. Is it too crazy? Is it too crazy to buy an empty truck and kit it out yourself to your liking? I don't think it's too crazy, but that kind of depends on your skill level and how much time you have. When I did my truck design, I was speccing out rack ready. So basically the truck arrives with everything you see here, but no equipment. So the carpet, the lights, the acoustic tiles, those are all there, but none of the equipment is. It's just all empty rack spaces. That's called rack ready. So I was going to put it all myself because I had that skill set. I have people who can help run cables and terminate wires and all that stuff. So I don't think it's too crazy to buy an empty truck and do it yourself, but that really depends on your skill set and, you know, how much time you have. Because I don't have photos of this, but in some of the old photos I've shown before on this channel, you know, because part of this truck moves, there are like grooves in the floor that you can't run cables through because the cables will just get cut. So you have to be able to snake wires around in a certain way that won't be, you know, impacting the ability to move the expando part. So there are basically like certain areas where you can run cables and certain areas where you cannot run cables. It just kind of depends. So, like I said, I don't think it's too crazy, but some people might. That'll seriously change your price though, because labor is expensive, and if someone's going to design it for you, you've got to specify how you want it designed. That's going to add a lot of cost, a lot of time, you know. So I've also seen trucks that weren't built to this level, that were more like box trucks, and they threw some workbenches in there and they threw some wires and they got it done in like a week, and it works. It may not be the fanciest truck around, but it works. So it kind of depends on, again, your budget, your timeline, what you expect. I mean, in this truck right here, you could bring people in. The people you are going to bring in who work for you are going to realize you spent some money on this truck, and therefore your bar is higher than others. You know, like they're going to see that and appreciate that. If you had clients who might come in here, talent come in here and look at this, you know, they're going to feel like, oh, this truck was well built and well designed and people take care of it. And let's do a quick quiz. How old, based on this picture, do you think this truck is? Please comment down below. I am really curious to know how many years old do you think this truck is? So please comment down below. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what you think. Yes, look up Girling and Associates. Like I said, they're based out of. It's not Columbus proper. I think it's called Sunbury. So yeah, so like look up Sunbury or Gurley and Associates in Sunbury. Yeah, I mean, I think you could easily integrate your own truck at that point. Yeah, I mean they are basically box trucks, but obviously this truck is there's some interior walls and their whole sliding mechanism. That's obviously not a truck, not a thing you're going to find in most box trucks. So they definitely they take a box truck and then they modify it pretty well. And then you're going to see later on down below how there's custom IO, and there's a generator which I don't think I took a picture of, but there's a generator built in, which is definitely not part of your box truck. And that's another thing too about this truck has its own generator, which is very rare for a production truck like this. Yeah, you've got power systems, TV centric storage, wire pass, lighting, furniture. It definitely it's definitely custom for sure. Ballpark truck price for a truck like this. Oh gosh. Let me go back and see if I can find. I don't think I have it in here. Nope, I don't see it. Oh, here it is. So I had quoted it before, and these are old prices, not even remotely the same truck. But the price I was being given for a smaller truck was in the neighborhood of about 150 to $160,000 for a truck. Again, not nearly the same size as this one, but it was the same company. It was going to be finished the same way, same carpet, same interiors, that kind of a thing. It was going to be a 16-foot truck, so about half the size, a little bit less than half the size. We're talking about 165 ish, 175. So I'm guessing you're at a quarter million easily for this kind of a truck. Again, just a guess. Uh, yes, it's call for pricing for sure. But unlike, oops, and I'm not even on camera for this. Unlike most times when they say call for pricing, which they just want to talk to you about a sales thing, every truck is custom. There is no like, I'm just going to order a truck. I mean, yes, like in theory, you could just say, give me a truck, but they're going to ask you, how many seats do you need? How many this? There's a whole lot of custom built stuff, and they don't just build trucks. Like, so it's not like one of those things where you can say, I'll take that version of the RV or I'll take that version of the boat, because they just have a model of, a book you can open up and go, I want that one. Every truck they build is custom. So there's going to be a lot of questions like, how big a truck? How many seats do you need? Do you have a generator requirement? Do you have power requirements? Do you have air conditioning requirements? Blah, 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 blah. So they probably have base packages and base pricing, but they're not going to be able to just tell you, oh yeah, it's this. Because, do you want a Ford truck or do you want a whatever, Freight-Line? I mean, you can change motor types. You can change all chassis types. So I would guess, like to answer your question, I would say easily a quarter million, probably more. So Micah says 15 to 20. Grish guesses 20. 23 years. They're not 4x3 monitors. There's not a single. Well, no, there's not a single 4x3 monitor. Well, I guess there is right there. There's that one computer screen. But those are, I think 55-inch televisions up front, and then these, yeah, those look like 55-inch televisions or 60-inch televisions. Toro says 2014. So Toro is actually, well, I guess, yes. Toro's close. The truck, actually, Toro's actually dead on. You're right. It was 2014. It's 11 years old. I did do my math real quick there. So yes, this is an 11-year-old truck. Based on the monitor model. Oh, of the Dells? Yeah, you're right. Those are that's about how old those monitors are, it looks like. Yes, and if you're a lot of the used trucks, yes, they sell for a lot less because a lot of the old trucks were literally built for analog or built for SD. They have cabling that's SD. They have a lot of wear and tear, a lot of miles. So yeah, there's when you buy a used truck, your prices diminish significantly. And there's a company that I subscribe to that sends me all their old trucks. Like, you want to buy these? And it's just like a weekly newsletter, and it just amazes me what you can buy. Um, sometimes they have like brand new trucks that just like the client either never like approved of it or missed the payment, and therefore like the truck was just never delivered. It's amazing. Like at one point there was like it was a studio on wheels type of truck, like you would take around to a golf, for golf or whatever it was. The thing was literally like brand new, and they had it for sale because I'm guessing the cable channel folded or the client didn't pay or something like that. So you never know what you can find out there. Good night. Top of the last rack. Let me go back to. Welcome in, Keith. Yeah, no, you were right on that one. That was good. Top of the last rack. Oh, that's a widescreen monitor. Oh, those up up there. I see what you're saying. Yeah, those are small. I almost didn't even notice those. Keith, I hope your stream was good. I hope I didn't cut you off in too much. So, so speaking of that, I am probably going to change nights. I think based on how many people go live on Tuesdays now, I think I'm going to probably switch to Wednesdays since Jeremy no longer does Wednesdays. I'm curious how many people actually would like me to move to Wednesdays, or if that creates issues. I would love to know. It just seems like Tuesdays is sometimes hard to do based on, Keith and other people streaming too. So, yeah, let me know. Ernesto, welcome in. So actually, Keith, if you stay around for a little bit, we're going to get to audio, and I know you like audio. So, just wait a couple minutes and we'll get to audio. You'll like that. So, all right, so let's go back. Oh, sorry that Wednesday night's a terrible night for you. I may go back and forth. I don't know. I'm just throwing the idea out there to see. So I would appreciate any feedback on what days work best for you. So you've seen the overall truck. Now let's go to the front bench. And so we're going to go up here. So this is the front bench, as we call it. And this is where the director, producer sit. Hold on. Had to grab some water. So again, this is the front bench. This is where the director, producer, and then the TD sits. You can kind of see there's not a lot of room up here, but there's enough room that people can sit down. Generally speaking, you're not getting up and down a lot. So kind of like once you sit down, you're down there for a while. You can see intercoms, you can see speaker panels, and those panels that are above, like in the wood area, they're router panels, so they can route their own sources. They usually don't, but you could. And then again, you have the giant switcher that is completely overkill for this truck, but I like overkill, so I'm very happy they have it. But one thing about this truck, just to kind of reference yourself, is you didn't see anything about audio earlier. If you look on this video, in the right hand corner, oops, went too far. As you see in this shot, in that upper right hand corner where that hole is, that's where audio is. And so audio is in its own room. Jeff Gerling is in the house. Welcome. First time seeing you here. That's awesome. You were in a broadcast truck earlier. I am curious to hear more. Was this about that thing that you were shooting that you maybe lost the video for? Just curious. You usually lurk. Okay. Well, glad you are here. I'm sure most of you know who Jeff Gerling is. Yeah, celebrity. Whose dad is also a broadcast engineer like my dad was. And like I am. Yeah, we are all fans. Yes, we are. Well, I'm glad you're here, and hopefully you are enjoying the stream tonight. Yeah, I get to talk to an engineer from 45 Flex at a Blues game on camera. Cool. I think I actually know that truck. Will that be a video? I'm assuming. If so, that'd be awesome, and I look forward to that. Cool. Yes, that's awesome. Very cool. All right. So yeah. So this is the front row, like I said, and then we got a video of the switcher, and this is actually lit up. So here you can see, this is the switcher. A lot more inputs than most people probably ever want to think about. This is a 4ME switcher, so there are 4 MEs, if you will, multi-layered effects or multi-effects engines, however you want to call them. Each ME has 6 keyers, so it can have 6 layers of keying. You know, your ATEMs usually have 1 or 2 layers of keying. This has 6 per ME, so you can, and they all can be different. So this is, quite a big switcher, and I'm going to play this again. And you can see they have tons of inputs. You can see the cameras. You can see replay, which is typically called XY, red, blue, gold, and silver. Those are your replay machines. You can see that this, got plenty of cameras. It's got videotape machines. It's got graphics sources. They change the color of the button kind of based on your source. So like blue, in this case, are cameras. It looks like that teal color is your replay. You got beige, you got purple, you got some other colors in there. So yeah, so like you can, layer this in a lot of different ways. It's got like I said, this switcher to me is a little overkill for what they're doing, but it's the same caliber as you would find, in, for example, the truck that Jeff was talking about. those higher end trucks that do blues games, you're going to find this switcher in the same thing. And a lot of these times, or a lot of these trucks are designed so that the crew can get in and get out and not have to think about the setup of the equipment or whatever it is. So they use a lot of the same things. So if you're a TD and you're doing professional baseball, you carry around a flash drive with your show on it. So like you walk in with your show pre-made or whatever it is, you load your show, and that way you have a default configuration that or the truck will have a default configuration, and you can load your custom whatever off of here. So you need to know the switcher gear, and you need to know truck gear. So one of the things like I did a couple weeks ago is I went down on during the week, and I learned how to run audio in that truck, because I've never run audio in a sports truck like that was not analog. An analog board I can kind of get. It's pretty obvious how it's laid out. This truck is a Dante-based audio board with patching, in the truck, but also there's obviously connections outside. So you could take mic 1, plug it into connection 1, you could patch it over to 17, then you can route 17 to 20. You can see how that can quickly get a little out of scale, out of whack. So you kind of have to learn the truck. You have to learn the equipment. If you're a professional audio person, you walk in and you kind of like know the audio board already, because it's usually a Calrec. This truck does not have a Calrec, but that's not but it does have the same switchers. So big time TDs, the kind of people who do like NFL football, whatever, they know Grass Valley switchers. That's what this is. They can walk in and instantly know how to change things, instantly know how to route things. Sorry about that. Instantly know how to do all the things they need to do, like second nature. So you don't want to get, at least in professional sports and professional television, you don't venture too far outside the norm. You're not going to walk in and find Black Magic gear. You're not going to walk in and find, some of this other stuff out there. You're going to find a Grass Valley switcher, a Calrec audio board, most likely. You're going to find RTS intercom panels. You're going to find EVS replay machines. You're going to find that kind of stuff, because that's what everybody uses, because that's what they're used to. And if you're hiring a bunch of freelancers who are going to work your game and then move on to someone else's game, you don't have time to train them necessarily. So that's why you'll see in these bigger trucks sometimes bigger switchers and bigger things like that, because that's what people know. So here you can see the switcher. I will admit, I could probably switch a show off of this, assuming it was set up for me. But to actually set it up myself, I'd have to spend a whole lot of time going through it. This truck has already got a configuration loaded, as you can see. So I could probably make it work fairly easily, because it's already preloaded. And that's in fact how the audio works, because the audio's got a preset configuration you can just load. So, all right, so let's go back to here. Eric says 6 keys, wowza, yep. There's definitely a lot of buttons on that switcher. Who needs a mechanical keyboard? Yeah, they don't make noise though. They're quiet keys. You're not gonna hear a lot of noise from that keyboard or that switcher. Yeah, you could definitely. Now I don't know if this one does it, but I have a switcher at work that you can put in what we call Christmas tree mode, and it's red, green, blue over and over again, like Christmas trees. I don't know if this does this one or not, but I'm assuming they probably have a button test mode where all the buttons light up in a cool pattern. Eric says, I can see how this is a hybrid. It's got the big truck bits and pieces. Yes. Yes, this is definitely the big truck feel in a small truck. Oh yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times for like the high school game I was working on, We arrived at 2 p.m. and the game started at 7 p.m. So we had 5 hours to set up. But this truck does high school football every Friday. So there isn't a whole lot of tweaking going on each week. It's the same setup each week. It's more along the lines of run the cables and make sure they work. They're not redoing the switcher. They're not redoing the audio board. If you're doing a baseball game or an NFL game, you typically arrive the day before. So they have what they call a set day. So you have a setup day where you arrive, let's say on a Thursday, if you're doing a Friday game, or a Friday if you're doing Saturday, so on and so forth. And you'll spend an entire 8 hours setting things up, making sure things work, testing things, all that stuff. And then you'll go home or go back to your hotel room, most likely, and then come back the next day, work 8 more hours, and then do the game. So you'll have put in 12 to 16 hours of setup before the game even starts, and that on those big trucks. Now, if you're talking about like a Sunday night football, they will arrive on Thursday, I believe. So they will arrive on Thursday. They will be on site Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and do the game on Sunday. On those big productions. Now, not everybody is there every day. Like the anchors don't come in, or the talent doesn't come in, but like the truck engineer on Thursday will park and power. That's what they call it. And basically they'll park the truck where they want it. They'll power it all up, make sure it all works, and then be done. And then on Friday, the actual technicians will show up, like the TD, the audio operator, whatnot. They'll show up on our Friday. They'll start setting their stuff up, and then the cameras might get set up, and then you'll spend an entire day testing things, and then you'll broadcast the game on Sunday. So, yeah, it just kind of depends again. So this truck and this scale of high school football is designed to come in, do the game, and drive out same time, same day. There's no setup involved, no setup day involved, I should say. And but other times, if you're doing college football, depending upon the show, you may come in early, you may not come in early. You may just have an early morning call, like a 4 a.m. call for a 12 o'clock game. Yeah, no black magic need apply, that's for sure. Yeah. Yes, it's a matter. It's always funny because, yeah, it's all a matter of hours until you're done and then you go home. There are some audio boards that have Vegas mode. Keith says, I have a client that travels and does drag races for Fox and was one of the guys in charge back when I saw. Yeah, that's very typical to go in on a Thursday, broadcast on Saturday. That's very typical. Sometimes it's going on Thursday, broadcast on Sunday, type of thing. I've never done. Well, I shouldn't say never. I did a couple years ago, and I made a video about it. I think it's still up on YouTube, about the NBA Finals. We went in a week early. Spent the entire week on site preparing for the NBA Finals, but that was because there was 17 trucks and there were 3 days of events. So we went in on a Monday. There was games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I think. Or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I can't remember exactly what the schedule was like. But we were there for a whole entire week, Sunday to Sunday. That's rare, but it does happen. And I remember a couple years ago, they made a big deal about it because the TD who did the Daytona 500 was doing the Super Bowl. So he went in, spent a week preparing for the Daytona 500, and then he flew to the Super Bowl and then spent a week doing the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like that was correct. So, but, yeah, so let's go on to replay. So you've seen the front bench, you've seen the switcher. So now here is replay. And let me remove this. So this is the replay area. This is behind in that second row. Here you can see some more of those router panels. You see speakers. You see some volume controls. They're looking at this screen. That big green blob in the middle is actually a desktop computer that's not on yet, but that's where it would be. Those with you with keen eyes will realize that this is the second place and only the second place in this truck where you'll find Blackmagic gear. Because, and I did take a picture of this. So here's a close-up. Oh, that's not the right picture. This is the right picture. So here you'll see they have HyperDecks. And this is so they use HyperDecks for recording. And you can see right there. They don't often use them. We never used them for this production. But a lot of times, depends what they're doing. They'll record, to the HyperDecks and then hand those tapes to an editor. Sorry, tapes. No one uses tape anymore. They'll hand those SSD drives to an editor who might go edit video, or the client may just want, ISO feeds. And so they'll record each camera as an ISO feed, or maybe they'll record the show as a high quality, on multiple SSDs that the person can take with them. It really just depends. But yes, they do have HyperDecks, and they use them in this truck, and this is the only place that you'll see Blackmagic gear. If you were an astute viewer earlier in the overview, you will see that they have older generation HyperDecks. Like right there, you can see above or behind that monitor, that computer screen, that's where the old school HyperDecks are. And then you obviously have the newer ones here. So, and they do have Teranex Minis to convert or embed the audio. I think is how they do it. They use those to embed the audio, so that the HyperDecks can record audio and video together. So that was replay. Any questions about replay? Oh, I should say, like I said before, this one actually has, this truck actually has 2 replay machines. So they have the EVS that everybody uses, and then they have ZPlay, which is kind of like the cheaper version. And so a lot of their technicians only know ZPlay from smaller productions. And so this truck actually has both. So it's a really good approach to, being able to cater to whatever freelancers you're going to get. Because some freelancers, maybe who work for high schools or colleges, only know the ZPlay. But if you got a freelancer who works for Fox or NBC or whatever, they may only know EVS. And this truck has both. So depending upon how the operator or who the operator is, can dictate whether or not they use a ZPlay or an EVS, or they could use both. They could have 2 operators. Again, perfect design, perfect use of that. We're big, but we're also small. So great approach for them. I love that design. Keith Bennett asked, how stressful was the finals? TV engineer, welcome in. I don't know that I've seen you here before. How stressful was the finals? Well, my part was actually very small. It was working the Twitter feed. So I had a very small, very, very small role in our Twitter feed broadcast. So I was not involved in the game. I was not involved in pregame, postgame. I even forget what the show on Twitter looked like. I think it was just talking heads around a desk. I could be wrong. So my part was very small. So I didn't have a lot of stress. It was a pretty easy week for me. But obviously those guys in the bigger trucks who were doing the whatnot, they obviously had a lot more. Like I said, please go. I think I really hope that stream or that video I made is still up on there. I really hope it is. Let me go see if I can find it, because I would love to share it out for you guys. Oh yeah, here it is. 3 years ago. So go check out this video. I just posted in the chat. That is my kind of behind the scenes of the NBA All-Star. And it features my favorite photo I've ever taken. Or not my favorite photo ever, but it's one of my most favorite photos, which is the truck compound. But yeah, I talk about how we did that production. So yeah, please go watch that if you're interested in learning more about like big productions. Yeah, Blackmagic recorders. Yep. They're in the bottom row. Yes, HyperDeck's encouraging. Micah says, maybe you can relate. The worst part for me isn't the setup or running the event. For me, it's the most stressful staring at a bunch of gear knowing I've got to tear it down. No, tear down is easy for me. I don't mind tear down. And everybody seems to work a lot quicker. Once the game's over, everyone just seems like they get an extra burst of energy and they want to get out of there. So tear down is not a big deal for me. The worst part for me is getting started. It's the the stress of not getting started right away. Like I got there last week at 1:30 with the intention of taking some videos, and then the crew call was 2 p.m. but we didn't unload the truck until 2:20, and that was stressful to me. Like I wanted to get started and just get done, but we didn't unload the truck right away, so that was stressful to me. So for me, that's the stressful part. Or is the second time would be getting done and then trying to go get lunch or dinner in this case before you got to come back and start working. And it's, how much time do you have to go get dinner, and where are you going to go to dinner? Because sometimes there's no place to go to dinner nearby and you have to drive 10 minutes. Well, if you're only given 40 minutes for a lunch break, you got to drive 10 minutes. You got to come back 10 minutes. Therefore, you only have 20 minutes to go find food. So to me, it's more of the setup and the waiting, if you will. And my dad was a TV engineer, and he told me for years, television is a hurry up and wait business. You hurry up to get there, you wait to unload. You set up, and then you wait till the show starts, and then you tear down, and you got to wait to be cleared, kind of thing. So, yeah, for me, that's the worst part. Yes, those are for ISO recordings of cameras or feeds. They do have Aja gear. It's a crime that HyperDecks don't have analog inputs. Well, very little on that truck is analog. The audio comes in and gets converted to Dante, and then it's embedded audio from there on out. Not embedded audio. It's discrete audio that has to get embedded to get recorded. Yes, the older versions do have analog inputs and outputs. Yeah, the teardown can be a late night. That's for sure. I mean, I always, I cringe every time I think about it, because when you're watching Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or the World Series the other night that went 18 innings, you've got to tear down. Like, you don't go home and then come back and tear down. You tear down. So the minute the production's over, you're tearing down and then working for at least another hour tearing down. So if you just worked an 18-inning baseball game and then you got to tear it down before you can go to bed, That's a long ass day. If you worked Sunday Night Football, you might have been on site since 10 a.m. in the morning, and now you're tearing down at 1 o'clock in the morning. So teardown is very much stressful, but it just seems like everybody gets that burst of energy, and it happens fairly quick. Now I've been on a teardown where it was next to freezing, or maybe it was freezing, and it was raining. Those teardowns don't go so quick. It seems like you never can get done fast enough. Um, that's where having union hands where I can send is a good godsend. Yeah, if you have people, that's definitely the thing, because good people make everything easier. TV engineer, I watch your YouTube for good stuff. Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Uh, yeah, I've heard that too. Yep, I definitely don't like those kind of call times, but it happens. One of the reasons why I'm going early tonight is because I have a doctor's appointment early tomorrow morning, so I want to go to bed early tonight so I can drive an hour to my doctor's appointment tomorrow morning. All right, so let's go back to the audio board. Let's go look at the audio board now. So this is the audio board. It's a Yamaha. I think it's a CL5. So you have 16 motorized faders on the left. You have 8 motorized faders in the middle, and then you have 8 more motorized faders on the right. So I don't think it's a very conventional board for a truck like this, but it's this for the form factor and what it does. It works. I actually use the CL3 at my church, so I'm familiar with the board. Um, but yeah, so this is an all Dante based board. I think it was 64 inputs and 64 outputs. I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, multi layers. You can change. Each of those fader packs could be cycled between. I think it's 8 different layers. So you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of what's on each fader. It's all routable, patchable. So highly customized, which of course means you have to think about things pretty complicated because the inputs don't always match the faders and they don't always match so. But yes, this is its own little isolation booth, as Eric points out. It's even got its own door. So yeah, I mean, it's fairly enclosed. So that's nice for the audio operator. I also like that they're actually pretty good sized speakers in front of you. So, none of these little tin cans, whatever. And just so you can orient yourself, behind that monitor is the switcher. It's perpendicular, but it's right there. So audio is literally looking at the switcher, essentially. So the switcher is right behind that. So in case you're wondering orientation, that's what it looks like. So we have the audio board. Above that, we have what I call the audio bridge. This is overhead. It's got a CD player. Can't tell you the last time anyone actually probably used that. It's got your intercom panel on the right. It's got what they call a digicart, or it's how you play music and sound effects. You'll see that here's the digicart controller on the left-hand side, and then here's the actual digicart unit itself. You got a couple power supplies, a couple other outboard gear for things, telephone interfaces. There's 3 of those right there. So, pretty basic, if you will, bridge, as I call it. And then you can see like how in relation to the audio board, it's above the audio board. So, and you can reach up with your hands and touch most of the stuff you had to touch. You don't have to touch it very often, but it's there. And then here's the audio rack. So first things first is this is the Rio So it's got, I think it's 24 inputs and, no, 32 inputs, 24 outputs. This is where all the analog I/O from the outside of the truck come in, and then it gets plugged into this box, and this box converts it to Dante. So this is where the analog to digital conversion is happening, or in this case, the orange cables, digital back to analog. So we kind of pan up. There's an Evertz frame. That's got cards in it that do various things. Then you obviously got a patch panel above it, and then you got a router panel and the intercom. That blue, green, highly overexposed panel is a router panel. It's from a company called Evertz, and you can customize those buttons to do inputs, outputs, run macros, do all kinds of things. In this case, basically you have sources, destinations, and then pages. Or sorry, destinations, sources, and then pages. So the red buttons are your destinations, your green are your sources in the middle, and then the 5 buttons on the right are different pages you can change. So you can have different layouts per page or route different things per page. And then there's the RTS intercom. And then this is the interesting stuff. This is all the little dip switches is the PAP panel. That is what you use to make party lines or intercom channels. So you have 5 channels right there. You have 5 PAP channels, I think you call them. I could have the name wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're called PAP. And basically you can decide what's in the left ear and what's in the right ear. So the top row is for the left ear, the bottom row is for the right ear, if I remember correctly. And you can create different mixes, different things for each thing. My brain is kind of mush right now. I wish I remembered how that worked better. Above that, you can see the power supplies and whatnot, because intercom has power on it. So you inject power, DC voltage, you inject the audio that you choose from that PAP panel, and you can make different lines to feed to different headsets. So you could have a headset with a feed for audio and on one side and program audio on the right side. You can make a headset for the talent that might only have the producer on one ear and the anchors on the right. You can make, a party line for the timeout coordinator who only hears the director and producer. That's how you basically make your different mixes for different things. So one of the biggest things about audio in television isn't so much about compression, EQ, effects, whatnot. It's pretty clean. We don't mess with a lot of those things in television, live television. The thing about live television audio is the complex routing and layers that you have to deal with. As the audio engineer, you deal with the intercom system and making sure that every person in the truck or the crew, hears what they need to hear, can talk to who they need to talk to. So you're creating a bunch of mixes, depending on your show, but you're creating a bunch of mixes for talent. You're creating mixes for the producer. You're creating different mixes for this. You're routing hot microphones here. You're routing this and that. It gets even more complicated if you have to introduce delay. So now you've got pre-fade or no delay or with delay, and then you might send custom mixes to replay so they only get the nat sound. Well, then, you got to make a mix that only is nats. Or, I learned this when I was doing training. It's called, oh, by the way, they create special feeds that go to replay. So like the reporter can run up, grab the coach and say, hey coach, what'd you think of that first half? That mix, that reporter's microphone with whatever else is going on, gets routed to the replay and has to be timed with the wireless camera so that it arrives in is sync, and it goes to the replay operator so they can replay it. But it's not happening on air. It's happening in a submix that you have to account for and factor in and take care of while you're doing the main mix. So audio for live television is very different than audio in a recording studio or whatever it is. Audio for live television is all about mixes and routings and communications. It's not so much about compression or effects or that kind of thing. Is that there? Yes, but we really don't EQ things unless we're EQing a problem. So I want to get that ringing out. I EQ that out. I don't really EQ it to make it sound better necessarily or more fuller. You EQ to get rid of problems. And you don't really use compression unless you really need to. So mixes for audio are generally fairly clean. They're not tweaked a whole lot. It's live sound. It's not a recording studio. So hopefully that made sense. All right, so now let's go outside and see what the truck looks like outside. And so here you can see the truck, and that's the engineer in charge. Derek is his name. So this is the back of the truck. Where he was standing, or where he is standing, is where I took the first video from. So if you remember back in the beginning, I did that panorama of the whole room. That's where I was standing. I was standing in the doorway right there. So here you can see how this truck expands out, and that whole section slides in and has to fit into the shell of the rest of the shell, the truck shell. So that's why we call them expandos, because they literally expand. And then one thing you can see here is the stairs actually hang off the back underneath the air conditioning units. And there are 2 air conditioning units to make sure that all the truck is cool, even on the hottest days. Now, I mentioned earlier how we had to unload. Well, the truck on the right, next to the yellow, is the equipment truck. The downside of this small, if you will, truck is that it can't carry gear. I mean, it carries some things, but doesn't carry a lot. And especially the fact that expando goes in to the truck, you can't put stuff inside the truck because the expansion part blocks you from doing that. There's also a weight issue. But in other trucks that don't expand, a lot of the gear can get put inside the truck. So like once you're done using the truck, everybody leaves the truck and then you load the stuff back in it. In this truck, because the way it's designed, you really can't do that. So you can't store the equipment on the truck. The only thing that this truck actually carries, besides the equipment itself, is cables. All the cables, or most of the cables, I should say, go underneath the truck on the other side. But this truck does not carry cameras. This truck does not carry, a lot of the stuff like scaffolding or whatever we use. The truck basically carries itself and some cabling. It doesn't carry anything else. And then, so let me just show you this video. So here you can see the walk around, and then we get to a point where that black bay is the I/O panel. That's where all the audio and video go in and out of the truck. And then you'll see right there is the power panel. Again, this truck carries its own generator, so we didn't plug anything into the power panel, but that's where you control the power, is from down there. And I have some pictures I can show you in a second about that. And then we obviously get around to the front, and there's the cab. You can see it's physically attached to the truck. There is no separate cab. And then here's a video of just showing in relation about how this small, if you will, truck can get next to the stadium. So we were right next to the stadium bleachers, which makes cabling a hell lot easier, a lot shorter runs. but we were still 200 and some feet away from the truck. Like the booth was a 200-foot cable run. The cameras, most of them were 200 feet or more. So even though we were as close as we could be, we were still almost 200 plus feet for most things away. So if you know cabling, most things can only go 328 feet or 100 meters. So, we used fiber on this truck, on this gig. We used fiber to get to the booth because we weren't sure exactly how long that run was going to be, and we wanted to make sure it worked. So we used fiber. Let me just go back because I think it's kind of a cool, like I said, just kind of show you again, walk around. You can see how the truck, it's got two entrances, one on each end. So now we're at the audio end of the truck where replay sits and audio. And then we'll show you again how close we were to the stadium. They obviously wanted us far enough away that people could walk next to it and whatnot, so that's what we did. Here is that audio video I/O panel. You'll see on the left-hand side video. On the right-hand side's all mostly audio. There's some foam patches that almost never get used anymore. The red connectors are actually just red covers over the camera connectors. So again, this truck is designed to have 8 cameras. So there are 8 coax connections for the cameras. A whole bunch of BNC video in the ins and outs. And then on the right-hand side, you have your audio ins and outs for microphones and party lines and IFB lines and whatnot. There's an intercom station there. There's a phone patch panel, which you almost never use anymore. You probably wouldn't even have that on a modern truck. Maybe not. I'm not sure. There's a router panel there, so they can route sources to that monitor. I think that is the other Black Magic product on that truck is that monitor. I think there's HyperDex and there's those 2 monitors. So, let me just check up on some comments since I see it's flying by. And then I'll probably get going. Tony says, cool stream. Kudo to the isolation booth. Yes, lots of audio. Lots of external connections. Quality wrapped cable on the ground. No, there was no no jib, no Chapman crane, no nothing. Not in this. Not for high school football. There were no drones either. Yes, always protect your connectors. Yes. Yes, so SEMTI, this is not a SEMTI fiber truck. This is a Triax, the heavy stuff. The most common fiber connector for broadcast is definitely ST. The twist lock. We like things in broadcast to be locked. So we like BNC because it locks. We like XLR because it locks. We like ST because it locks. Notice a theme? Oh, here you go. ST. Yep. Yeah, ST is very common for these type of trucks. This truck doesn't actually have fiber on it. It just carries a fiber kit. Hi, hon. Thank you for my water earlier. All right, so what else do I have to show you? That was the thing. That was the last video. I showed you. Oh, so here we go. Here is a close-up of the power panel. Oops, wrong window. Close that. So this is a close-up of the power input. If we were to use it, again, this truck has its own generator, so we didn't use it. We have, this is a picture of that power bay. And then you obviously have things like voltage and breakers. And there you can see the start-stop for the generator. some fuses, and then you basically there you can see like those two switches are like your voltage, about like what kind of voltage inputs you're using, because this thing's got a giant transformer, so it can step up or step down voltages based on what you feed it. I did grab a picture of the networking. There's not much networking. Basically, it's a Netgear switch, which I thought was kind of interesting. Two little routers. They actually have a DVD burner, but I can't imagine they've used it anytime recently. Oh, and speaking of fiber, so this is what we were using. These fiber to SDI converter. They're called rattlers. I don't know if they're made anymore, but I think they are. They're really cool, really small fiber to SDI converters, and almost everybody uses these. For video. So we send video to and from the booth, and this is what the booth looks like. So pretty simple. It's two monitors for two talent. There are headsets. So this is what the audio gets plugged into. The play-by-play has, he has a talkback button. He has a cough button so he can mute himself. And then you got the interrupt volume and non-interrupt. So non-interrupt volume is like the call, the whole mix. Interrupt volume is like what it, if you're talking to somebody and they come on. I mentioned earlier we had a game cam or clock camera. The clock camera literally is a itty bitty handheld camera that gets converted from HDMI to SDI and then sent down the fiber back to the thing so that we can monitor the clock. We usually get a data feed, but using this box, but this didn't have the right pinout for their scoreboard. They have some sort of like iPad driven scoreboard, and so this didn't work. So we actually had to use the clock camera we had to use to monitor the clock, because how else are we going to monitor the clock when you're out in the truck? Oh, Tommy's in the house. Welcome in. You're welcome for the tour. The fiber kit is Black Magic. I thought it was... Our fiber kit there's not Black Magic. You can get a Black Magic fiber kit. Oh, you were kidding. Sorry, I was like, yeah, no. I wouldn't trust a Black Magic fiber kit. I did buy a Naja fiber kit for work the other day. I trust that. But I would not trust a Black Magic. Do those fiber converters have latency? I'm sure they do. I just don't think it's enough to really matter. Could be wrong. Oh, I missed the photo. So this is the other side of that truck. And so you can see here, sorry about that. Here you can see those two doors in the back. That's the rack doors. So you open those two doors and that's where the rack is. And then if you see right in front of the middle tire there, it's not the middle tire, it's the tires in the back. Right in front of the tires is the generator underneath in one of those door bays. Typically you'd put equipment there, but because this truck has its own generator, they lost that whole bay to the generator. But again, this truck is designed to go places and do things that most trucks aren't. So it carries its own generator. So, yeah, I don't even know who makes those talkback boxes. I thought they were like handmade at one point. I don't know if they actually are or not. I don't think they are, but where is the photo? I just lost it. I mean, this seems very much like a handmade product. I don't even know who makes them though. There's a new company. There's not a new company. There's a company out there. Uh, Crap, I can't remember their name. They're black and green. Oh my god, I can't think. But they make talkback boxes now, and they're actually Dante. Like you literally plug in Dante audio to them, and you don't need to do this whole analog conversion. Studio Technologies, thank you. Yes, Studio Technologies. These are not those boxes, but yes, Studio Technologies makes a version of this that is Dante. It might even be PoE powered. I think it might. I think it is, which would dramatically simplify the setup as long as you can get reliable internet or reliable networking up to the booth. Which, with fiber these days, you could literally run. And I've seen it before. You run fiber malt up to a rack in the booth. The rack breaks it out into a network switch, and then you plug all your Dante and your networking devices into the networking switch, and then you're done. So it's fiber up to the booth. You plug the little rack in. You plug all your PoE devices into the rack, and you're good to go. There's no need for analog audio. There's no need to run multiple video feeds. Pretty cool. Puts a lot of faith in that fiber line. But, I mean, more often than not, that fiber line is going to be protected by either the route you took it, the fact that it's flying over the air, or who knows what. But I have seen the modern day version of a booth kit that is all IP based. This truck does not have that, but I have seen that. I've got to install where a PTZ is fiber extended SDI and Genlock, and it syncs perfectly without frame sync. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't imagine the fiber adds. It's minuscule, I'm sure. Graphics, I don't remember what the graphics are. I think it's a Chiron, but I don't actually know. That's a good question. I don't remember what the graphics were. I never bothered to ask. Huh. A lot of times they will have their own like score bot or score whatever system. It's kind of like their own bug. I don't know what they use. That's a good question. It's not Expression. I'm pretty sure it's not a Ross product. Um, Gosh, I don't think it's Chiron either. I don't know what they use. Actually, that's a great question. Um, I don't think I have a good photo of the rack to be able to tell you what they use. I do have a photo of the rack, but it's definitely, I don't know. I don't see any Chiron. I don't see any Ross logos. I see one computer, and it's a custom-made Super Micro box, or it's a Super Micro box. So I'm gonna go with something non-standard. Um, because I definitely don't. Oh, there's an HP box down here too, but I don't know what kind of graphics they use. I'll have to ask. That is the one thing I completely forgot about. At this point, your majority, yeah, Studio Tech's good stuff. I like it. I have one of their panels in our SAT truck at work that does like IFB and whatnot, or phone coupling and whatnot. Pretty cool box. They will talk to Clearcom, like their boxes are compliant, which is nice. Not fully compliant, but they will at least talk at a basic level. Casper CG. I don't think it's Casper CG. Graphics gets weird. I mean, I know for some places they literally ship the score boxes around like they're proprietary, and they literally just ship them from game to game. A lot of people use ROS Expression these days. It's very common to see Expression somewhere. You don't really see a lot of Chiron anymore. At least I haven't seen Chiron in a lot of places. Like I said, because I think they've adopted more of these custom solutions that do their bug and their animations the way they want it done and bring in the feeds they want to do. But I'll have to ask. I actually don't remember. But anyway, I am going to call it quits for the night. So if you have any questions, please ask them. If not, leave a comment later on. The nice part is the Studio Tech boxes, which are PoE powered, can power a couple of Clearcom packs, so one fiber drop in the venue rack will pick up on my intercom. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I wish I had Studio Tech boxes to play with and try around. Don't have any other new stuff, but if I was building a truck today, I'd probably go that route for sure. They can be expensive, but I mean, to be able to power it with PoE and have it be on the network and just work, be able to, route audio to and from it directly without having to patch and stuff like that, that'd be awesome. So, all right, like I said, I'm going to call it quits. Thank you guys for being here. I truly do appreciate everyone for being here, especially, TV Engineer and Jeff Gerling, if you're still here. I think there was somebody else who was new tonight. Who was that? If you're still here, Ernesto, you've been here before. Thank you coming back. I forget your name. I saw it earlier. But if you're new here, Brian, thank you for being here. Whoever, I'm still missing somebody, but I want to say thank you all for being here. Tommy, thank you for being here. Haven't seen you in a while. Haven't talked to you in a while. Hopefully you're doing well. So you all have a good night. Thank you very much for being here.